4 days away, or maybe even less. Now, that's how long Nigerians might have to wait till the unveiling of the much-anticipated ministerial list. The President of the Senate gave the indication earlier in the day. But is this enough to calm the nerves? We'll find out. And a mild drama played out earlier on at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal as the People's Democratic Movement appears divided over whether to withdraw or go ahead with its challenge of the 2019 presidential election. Hello everyone and welcome. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I am Kayode Okikiolu. We begin tonight with our monitoring of activities as the nation eagerly anticipates the formation of the President's cabinet. It is now 42 days, that's right. 42 days since the inauguration of the government for a second term in office, and we await the unveiling of the President's ministerial appointments. There you have it, right there on your screen. Well, it's perhaps no news that the election of President Muhammadu Buhari is being challenged in court. Now, as at the last count, there are 3 political parties contesting the conduct and outcome of the 2019 presidential election. They include the People's Democratic Party, that's the PDP, and its presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, Hope Democratic Party, that's HDP, and its candidate, Ambrose Oworu, and the People's Democratic Movement, that's the PDM, along with its candidate, Pastor Aminchi Habi. The petitions, which were originally 4, reduced to 3 after the Coalition for Change, that's the C4C, and its candidates, Chizie Ojinika, withdrew their case. That was last month. So today at the tribunal, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Movement and the party's national chairman announced separate appearances on behalf of the PDM, and that's when the sort of mild drama ensued. The national chairman of the PDM, Mr. Frank Igwebuike, then went on to inform the tribunal through his lawyer that he had filed a motion on behalf of the party to discontinue the petition against the election of President Muhammadu Buhari. But the PDM's presidential candidates, that's Aminchi Habu, and some other members of the National Working Committee opposed the party chairman's application, insisting that the party would prosecute the case to the end. Well, let's now take a look at the other trending political stories at this hour. It's been an eventful day across the country, and here's our political roundup.
Lawmakers at the Imo State House of Assembly has asked the state government to declare a state of emergency on the State House of Assembly complex due to its deplorable and dilapidated state. The Speaker of the Imo State House of Assembly, Chiji Collins, says urgent steps need to be taken to prevent any further collapse and loss of lives due to the deteriorating state of the Assembly complex.
Now, one intriguing thing about politics is the fact that it affects everyone, whether you are an active participant or just a bystander. And the policies and decisions made by those in power largely determine the quality of life of the people they govern, and Nigeria is no exception. So the point here is, if we're looking to have a Nigeria that we are all proud of, then you and I need to take responsibility, ask the right questions, and be our very best for Nigeria. That said, let's get into today's big story. The President of the Senate earlier made a statement that aroused the interest of a lot of Nigerians, at least the ones that are anticipating the President's ministerial list. This is what he said. Take a listen.
This is to inform this Senate that the executive arm of government is working very hard to get the list of ministerial nominees to the Senate. And I can imagine that before this week runs out, we could get the list.
So a lot of reactions have trailed this statement, as you would expect. Now, while some Nigerians wondered why the Senate President was the one making this statement, which they believe should be coming from the President's spokesperson, some others were optimistic about the coming cabinet, and they are of the opinion that it will be better than the previous one. There were some others who were indifferent. But as I said earlier, we're all in this together. So while we wait for the list to sort of materialize, let's clear the air on some major questions that have been raised and sort of set an agenda for the incoming cabinet. Our guests tonight join us from the nation's capital, Abuja. We have Mr. Kasim Afegbua, the spokesperson at the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, and Mr. Shegun Oshinaga as a member of the APC Presidential Media Committee. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you. A pleasure.
Mr. Oshinaga, I'd like to begin with you. Now, there are people that are wondering why it was a Senate president that came out to say this. I mean, some of them are saying it should have been the president's spokesperson. And they're asking, is the Senate president an extension of the presidency? How do you respond to that?
Well, I don't see anything wrong in the Senate president making the announcement he made. We're all expecting the president to send the list to the Senate, so that when he does, we all know. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with Senator Lawal doing what he did.
All right. So, Mr. Afegbua, I'd like to ask you this question. Now, the statement by the Senate president had some sort of uncertainty and probability to it. He said might. I mean, he didn't give an exact date. So if the president of the Senate sounds a bit unsure about this list, you can imagine how the average Nigerian out there feels about this. So the question is, do you think this could have been handled much better?
Well, I'm not surprised that the Senate president is making this statement. Don't forget that as at now, statutorily, we do not have spokesperson to the president. Femi Adesina has not been reappointed. Garba Shehu has not been reappointed. So if we are to go by the theory that Lawan was President Buhari's candidate, it goes to suggest that he has become his spokesperson for now. Having said that, you see, this delay is becoming worrisome. Worrisome in the sense that the APC appears not to have response to the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians in their millions, because they knew from day one that elections were concluded on February the 27th when they were announced, and they knew that by May 29 that there will be inauguration of a new government, which is a continuation of even though there are disputations, and 1 month plus after the inauguration, we are still rotating on the same axis and expecting to see motion. It's not possible. We are being detained by the inactions of a party and a government that appears lost in the wilderness, unable to fathom the way out of these situations that is confronting us as a nation. So whether Lawan makes any statement to the effect of when the list will come, Nigerians are tired of waiting for a list. We want to see governance. We want to see action. We want to see response to issues that are bedeviling the country. We want to see response to insecurity and banditry, kidnapping, and what have you. All this waiting game will take us nowhere.
All right, Mr. Oshinaga, I see you perhaps want to respond to that. You chuckled during his response.
Well, let me just say that I think we're making too much of nothing. I do not think that this is unnecessarily too long. I believe what we should be concerned with is the quality of minds, the quality of people that will be on that list. Nigeria's problems are so many that we should stop seeing ministerial positions as status symbols. We should not see it be concerned. And that's the unfortunate thing about our politics. People are picked to be ministers not because of what they can contribute, but rather because they want to fulfill the sub-region, the geopolitical place, the state. I think if we really want to see Nigeria move forward, I don't care where anybody comes from, as long as they are coming into office with a set agenda, with a determination to make things work, to have a set of men who have self-respect. If you can't do the job, if you can't get results,
don't let your name be on it. There's no use coming to sit down in Abuja if you cannot make a difference in the lives of the people.
Okay, Mr. Oshinaga, briefly, I'd like you to just see it in this light. The question is, do you think this is a cost or benefit to the country? I mean, the anticipation, the wait, and perhaps the uncertainty that this has caused. Do you think this is a cost or a benefit? I'd like to get your honest response to this.
Well, the fact of the matter is that rather than debating why is it taking this long or something like that, let's anticipate that the president will pick men and women who have a determination, who have the self-respect, who have mental fitness,
Mr. Oshinaga, permit me to comment. The question is, do you think it's a cost or a benefit? I mean, from what you have seen so far. I mean, that's the line. It's not a debate. I'm just asking for your honest opinion.
Well, the truth about it is that I don't see anything fantastic about the wait.
So you think it's a cost or a benefit to the country at large?
Well, when finally the president unveils them and we see the quality of men he has been able to assemble, it will be a benefit to Nigeria.
Okay, so Mr. Afegbua, what are your thoughts? Cost or benefits overall?
Thank you. You see, I'm laughing because when you hear APC chieftains come on television and stammer when you ask them questions, it tells you something about them. You see, they are not sure of themselves. They are very unsure of the scenario and the situation they find themselves. This has been a government of monologue. It's a huge cost on the country, waiting endlessly for ministerial list, ministerial nominee, as provided for in the Constitution of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. We are not asking for extra, responsibility from the president. We are saying, carry out your constitutional responsibility of appointing ministers from each of the states of the federation, so that we can move forward. This waiting game, you can do your cost-benefit analysis, and you discover that it has affected the economy because at the stock market, a lot of things are going wrong. Because they are anticipating, once you are not able to have a cabinet that can show a roadmap to your economic prognosis, then it becomes a problem of interpretation of the body language of the president. So when you see APC chieftains, laughing and stammering and all of that, it means that they don't want to hurt the president by saying the obvious. But Nigerians in their millions know that this waiting game has become very tiresome.
All right, now Mr. Oshinaga, I understand that there's a lot of conversation around this. And I mean, this is a good conversation starter in Nigeria. If you get anywhere, you want to talk to anyone, just ask about Nigeria's politics. You'll definitely get responses from people. But then there's a big picture to this. I mean, we're looking at the next 4 years. We're looking at moving Nigeria forward. And let's even look away from the time it has taken. Let's look at, okay, when we eventually get this cabinet, what are you looking forward to? What are your expectations? What kind of team do you expect the president to put together?
Well, the president has said it all, that this next 4 years he intends to make things happen. And he understands the fact that this next 4 years, he needs to build a legacy that would outlast him. Therefore, the kind of men that need to come take office should not be those who are coming for jamboree in Abuja. They should not be people who are just coming to fill the vacuum from their states. They should be men and women with a singular purpose to make things happen. And by the way, let me say this, that it will be a good thing for, no corporate organization or hires people like government hires people. What are they coming to do? There should be performance guides. There should be goals. There should be review quarterly. So it's important that anybody coming who is lucky to find his name on the list should know that he's coming to build a legacy that people will remember. The nation will be better because he's there. And they should know, too, that unlike before, there is no reason why not to fire people who are not performing.
All right.
So if you have self-respect and you find yourself on the seat as a minister and you can't perform, you have enough self-respect to say, let me go. I can't do this job.
Okay.
If you want to see Nigeria make progress, we need men like that and women like that.
All right, gentlemen.
So I trust that the president will find among 200 million people enough men and women who will come, roll up their sleeves, and get to work and get things done.
Okay, now another part of this conversation is how Nigeria is viewed in the world. I mean, the president just signed the AFCFTA recently, and then we're looking forward to have, for example, foreign investment and what have you. So let's take a look at how other countries handled this, assembling of cabinet, how other leaders across the world handled the cabinet. And we prepared something. We took a look at a few countries around the world. So let's begin with Senegal in the West African region. Now, President Macky Sall was inaugurated on 2nd of April 2019. He formed his cabinet on the 8th of April 2019. That's exactly 6 days after he became president. Now, this cabinet size for President Macky Sall of Senegal is 32 ministers. Let's move to South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa, he assumed office on May the 22nd, also this year, and formed his cabinet 7 days after. That's 1 week, on May the 29th, 2019. A total of, well, there you have it. Let's move to India, actually. India now has a population of over 1.2 billion people, actually. So the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, was inaugurated on May the 30th for a second term. He formed his cabinet just few hours after he was inaugurated on the same date, a total of 58 ministers. Mr. Oshinaga, looking at this, how do you think the international world would look at Nigeria? I mean, 42 days after, we're still awaiting.
Well, everybody has a style. And if the president chooses, he determines that he needs some time to cross-check the names that have been submitted to him, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Right.
What is important, however, is that there must be men and women who are coming to work.
Okay.
There must be men and women who are not just coming for a jamboree, coming just to be federal minister of the federation, but to have an agenda to make things happen while they are there. That's what is important.
Mr. Afegbua, now you have seen some of these, I mean, how it is done in other countries. And in Nigeria, 42 days to go. I mean, this is not speaking to the elephant in the room, but what does this say about the country?
You see, when you have a situation where one particular columnist described it in the Nation newspaper as an era of globalization, government by go slow, for go slow, of go slow. You can't expect miracles to happen. This is a government that enjoys, inertia. A government that does not know what to do at the appropriate time to bail us out of our precarious situation. This is a government that has underperformed in 4 years, and by sheer out of omission or commission, they found themselves back into government. And rather than take the bull by the horn and lead us and provide leadership, that is essential attribute, leadership, by coming up with a cabinet that will jumpstart an already moribund economy that is battling to survive in the midst of other competing interests, if the government is still detained by this old scenario of waiting and waiting and waiting. Countries all over the world that want to move their country forward know exactly what to do. When Ramaphosa came in, he knew that he needed to jumpstart, the processes of recovering South Africa, and moving it forward. And within a week, he set up a cabinet. Meanwhile, our own president told us on June 12th that he wants to bail out 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years, even though we know that he has 4 years to spend. But even at that, he has not put up a cabinet that would drive that narrative. And then you want to sit down here and tell me that every country has its own style.
Right.
What manner of style is that?
Okay, now we'll need to take a break right now. But when we come back, we'll try to set priorities for this coming cabinet? I mean, we've debated how long it is taking, but it appears we're closer than we used to be. So we'll take a moment on the show, and when we come back, we'll discuss priorities and sort of set agenda for the coming cabinet. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Now, we're still staying with the much anticipated ministerial list of President Muhammadu Buhari's second term in office. It's 42 days after the president's inauguration, and we're still anticipating. But while we wait, we discuss the major issues and take a look at the priorities moving forward. We're still being joined by Mr. Kasim Afegbua, a spokesperson at Atiku PDP Presidential Campaign Council. He joins us live from Abuja. And right next to him is Mr. Oshinaga, a member of the APC Presidential Media Committee. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying with us on the program. Now, before we went on the break, we're talking about priorities. Now, moving forward, Mr. Afegbua, so let's sort of set an agenda. We're in the football season, and we understand that to achieve any goal, you need the right team. I mean, you don't just need the right coach, you also need the right player. So we imagine the president is a coach, and the ministers are sort of the players in order to achieve a goal and sort of win the tournament. So let's start with the economy. We have a match, let's imagine, to better the economy of the country. What kind of approach would you prefer?
You see, if we have a government that is thinking about the plight of Nigerians in their millions today, I expect that by now the president ought to have put in place a very vibrant, forward-looking, result-driven, utility-driven economic team. They are to sit down in the laboratory of, economics and come out with policies and programs that will address the situation that we find ourselves. Poverty is very high in this country. Unemployment has risen to, rooftop, and so many other dislocations that tend to, make the people appear hopeless. I expect this government to instill hope in the people by coming out with policies and programs and having an economic team that understands the issues. It is not just about sitting down waiting for ministerial list. No, cabinet is one, but having an economic team comprising Nigerians who understand the dynamics of economics, the global economics, the domestic economy, and marry all of that together to come out with policies and programs that will address our precarious situation. We have insecurity, we have unemployment, we have kidnapping, we have armed banditry, all manners of societal ills, confronting us as a nation. And yet, we are being detained by the waiting game for a ministerial list.
Right.
It means that the government is either insensitive to the plights and the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians, or at best, they are detained in themselves of not knowing what to do to confront these behemoth problems that are confronting us.
All right, so Mr. Oshinaga, another issue that has come up is the fact that this delay might also be due to some form of power struggle within the APC. So someone is saying, this is who I want, another person saying, this is who I want, and there's some sort of clash of interest. What do you say to that?
Well, it's normal and usual to have competition of interest. But honestly, I believe that soon, like the Senate president said, very likely this week, the president will bring out the people he has chosen to drive the governance of this nation. And let me tell you this, I sincerely believe that Mr. President is conscious of the expectations of the 200 million Nigerians, and he has vowed that he will not disappoint them. I trust that very soon this vehicle will start moving, and it will move purposefully to meeting the needs of Nigerians, attacking our problems frontally, right, and bringing solutions out.
Okay. So, Mr. Oshinaga, just last week, the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Babatunde Ruwashe, made a statement, and this is what he said. He said, the prolonged delay in cabinet formation is fueling economic uncertainty and may undermine the confidence of investors, stall new investments, and increase the wave of national insecurity. So there's economy in that. There's also insecurity coming together, according to the president of the LCCI. So Moving forward, you have said that very soon we'll get a cabinet. What should be the priority and what formation should we see?
I believe very sincerely that the government of President Buhari will do justice to governance in this next 4 years. The president himself said he will shock people. Those who call him Baba Gosto said he will shock them. So we're expecting him to bring in on board people who are determination builders, not just politicians, not just those who are looking for towards the next election, but statesmen, men who intend to put their efforts together to achieve and solve problems of Nigerians. And I believe that this next 4 years will be different from the first 4 years, that you won't just be there and you won't do nothing and you will stay there for 4 years. I believe that the president will bring men and women who are purposeful and who intend to work. And if they won't work, they'll be fired.
Are you alluding, Mr. Oshinaga, are you alluding to the... Are you alluding, Mr. Oshinaga, a moment, are you saying that there were some ministers during the past term that sat there, according to you, and did nothing? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. I am saying that people will be closely better monitored,
okay,
and targets given to them.
All right.
That there will be improvements over the first term.
Okay.
That only those who are productive, who are bringing forth results, and how do you know they're bringing results? There will be regular targets, quarterly, monthly, 100 days, 200 days, and so they know they have a target, and they will either meet it or they go find their level, go somewhere else, go do something else.
All right.
This nation needs to move forward. We cannot do business as usual. We need people, men and women, who believe in this nation and who want to see progress.
All right. So, Mr. Afegbua, Mr. Oshinaga says the president will shock Nigerians. But then there are some people that are of the opinion that the new cabinet might not be any different from the previous cabinet. So do you see any surprises springing up?
No, I think you should understand Oshinaga's statement from the context that it's already shocking Nigerians. He's not saying that the president will shock Nigerians because he's bringing something new. He's telling you that we are going to be shocked. We're already shocked because when he took over on May 29th, we were expecting that he was going to announce the cabinet barely 1 week later. On June 12th, when he gave a statement about 100 million Nigerians, to be taken out of poverty, we were expecting that this following day there was going to be a cabinet, a list of cabinets, a list of nominees to be announced. But none of that happened, so we're already shocked. But we're also not surprised because it is his style to delay. In 2015, he waited for 6 months, at which time the economy crumbled, and we struggled to bail out of it. And now we have spent 42 days out of 4 years. So he doesn't have 4 years any longer. Time is a resource in governance, in management, and in the life of a nation. So for 2 days, it's already out. No cabinet activity, so to speak. So if the president is really serious about jump-starting the process of taking us out of this present logjam, economic conundrum, he ought to have set up a cabinet, put in place economic team to address these salient issues that are confronting us. As we speak today, I even expect to have conversation around the geopolitical zones. I expect to see the presidency commencing conversations in the southwest, in the southeast, south-south, northeast, northwest, at different fora, different platforms. It is convenient for the president to travel to Niger or any country outside Nigeria to attend meetings than to travel to any of the states to even meet with the people and connect with them. There is no connection. There's some kind of dislocation. And so to that extent, we are still rotating in the same circle and we're not getting the results we want to see. That is why you see a lot of suicide, people committing suicide now. People are checking out of this country, go to embassies, you see long queues of people looking for visas. Go to Libya, people are being killed, our migrants are being killed over there. See, we're disconnected. We need a unifier. We need a president that would speak to us. I'm tired of this monologue. The same matter yesterday, the same matter day before yesterday, the same matter today. Waiting for list, waiting for list, waiting for list. How long are we going to wait?
Mr. Oshinaga, now, Mr. Afegbua has raised some issues. He has talked about the president's, for example, body language, and that's something that has come up a lot. The fact that some people feel that, oh, we say a lot, and it appears that the president is not listening. Well, that's from their perspective. So how do you address this issue, especially in the next over 3 years? This is something that will form a central part of the conversation. How do you address this?
My friend Afegbua is overworking himself. He should cool temper. Work is about to start, and Nigerians will be glad that this president really cares about this nation and about the issues that we face. We will soon begin to see activities. So just relax, and I trust that the next 4 years will be a time of transformation.
There's no 4 years.
In every area of life in Nigeria. And those who have been cynical or skeptical, election is over. Election is over.
That's why we are saying
let's join hands together.
We are saying it should work.
Yeah, it will work, and he's working. The president is working, and he will work harder. He promised he will work harder. And I trust that we will all be the better for it 4 years down the line.
All right, now, Mr. Oshinaga, I've noticed a trend in your statement, and generally, there's this sense of, we hope it will get better. We'll begin to work. We are working. I mean, it's like a trend, a cycle. But, away from that, let's talk about, the running of ministries, for example. Now, over the course of this 42 days, ministries have been run by permanent secretaries. And, there's been this, assertion that everything is fine. I mean, nothing is, no big deal. I mean, you have said it, he should cool temper, like according to you. But then, does this still change the fact that we need ministers? I mean, the Constitution provides for that. So no matter how much you have permanent secretaries, there's still that vacuum in place.
I'm not denying the fact that this should be done, and it will be done. I have no doubt that the president is trying to be thorough, and I'm sure we'll judge in the days to come the effectiveness of his approach. But I can assure you one thing, that this next 4 years will be a time of giant strides across all sectors of Nigeria, that the people that will come to work with the president will work with their hearts, or they will be shown the door out.
All right.
And so Nigerians have every reason to be hopeful and expect next level changes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We would like to move to another conversation, but I'd like to appreciate Mr. Kasim Afegbua as a spokesperson of the Atiku PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.